first of all, just thank you so much for calling in. I'm so excited to be talking to you. My whole family is fans of yours. So
Oh, thank you so much. I know I'm a fan favorite of mothers for sure. I always hear someone go, "My mother loves you." And I'm like, "And you? Are you chopped liver?"
Um, my first question for you is who or what inspired you to become an actor?
Wow, that's a good question. You know, my parents are teachers and they were not very excited about me watching television. So I didn't get to watch television that much, but when I did, I was so enamored by what I saw, whether it was the Partridge Family or the Brady Bunch or Green Acres. I wanted to be inside that box. But then my mom started taking me to the theater because they're very cultured. So we couldn't watch television because, you know, that was not good for your mind, but the theater. And I remember the first time I went to see a play that I loved, I felt jealousy. I felt envy. I was like, I've got to do that. And then I was on a mission. I went to camp every summer for theater and I did all the school plays, and it's what I fell in love with. And I went through college and got a bachelor's degree in theater, and then I got a master's degree in theater. And then I was in New York trying to be an actor, and through a lot of grit and hard work and dedication, it happened.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, you were in the legal show, The Practice, and I know that you won an Emmy for your role in that show.
That little thing, little Emmy, no big whoop.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was the most challenging part of playing a lawyer?
Well, I was introduced to a lot of concepts and legal jargon and really lofty ideas and words I'd never heard of. You know, I'd get a script and it would say, "Well, let's do an interlocutory appeal," and I'm like, "Well, that sounds like Greek." So I had to do a lot of research, and thankfully, my brother is a lawyer. And I joke about it a little bit in my family because, you know, my family's very intellectual. And I always think my brother went to Harvard Law School, and I always thank my brother for being a lawyer so I could be an actor, because somebody had to be a lawyer in my family. So I literally moved into my brother's back house and basically went over the scripts with him so he could help me understand what I was saying. I mean, it's one thing to say it with feeling, but it's really a whole nother thing to really understand what you're talking about. And he was vital in that. So it was wonderful, and it was hard. I happen to love the law, and I've been to small claims court several times, so I felt like, you know, if anyone could go into a courtroom and win over a case, it would be me. So I think it was a good fit for me.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I find all that stuff like so interesting. I took a street law class last year that is probably by far my favorite class I've ever taken. And so it was one of those that it was like everything we learned about I was interested in, which is not always the case. So
Did you say street law?
yeah.
What does that mean, street law?
It's oh, I don't. Okay, I knew this, and now I.
Is it more of like, I think of like pedestrian law, like everyday laws that people would maybe need to get by in the world, but I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. We just like we learned about like everyday laws, and then like First Amendment and all that.
I gotta take that class. I gotta take that class.
I'm still in touch with the teacher, so I'm gonna have to tell him Camryn Manheim wants to take your class.
I would love to. Do you watch all the law shows or listen to the podcasts?
Yeah, well, I watch a couple of those shows. Like when we watched the show All Rise, and I remember when it premiered last year, since I was taking street law, like everything that wasn't like that you couldn't actually do. I was like, no, they can't do that. They're not supposed to do that.
Accurate. I object.
Yes.
I can see you objecting from your couch.
I was.
Overruled.
Yeah, I was like, they're not using that correctly. So then I told my teacher that class ruined me, that I can't watch a show like that.
That's why they always say ignorance is bliss. If you didn't know anything, you just would love that show.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. So I know that you played Lieutenant Cosgrove in Stumptown.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so obsessed with that show, and I am still so sad that it ended. What was your favorite part about working on that show?
Well, you mean other than working with the dreamy Jake Johnson and Michael Ealy and Kobe Smulders, who are three of the most delicious people I've ever met, plus Adrian, Martinez and Count Two. For me, it was the company that was so incredible. And I loved the script so much because I loved that there was a character on it. There were three very strong women on the show: Tantu Cardinal, myself, and Kobe. And none of us were perfect. We were imperfect, but we were strong and we were loyal. And we just had all these characteristics of really powerful women. And my favorite thing was just that Kobe was kind of a mess. She was our heroine of the show, but she did so many things wrong. But she still was right. And I just think sometimes it's nice to have a TV show where people aren't perfect, but their heart is in the right place, but they make really bad decisions and they're a work in progress, and they're messy, and, you don't wear makeup, and your clothes aren't expensive, and she was an addict. She was addicted to life in so many different ways and made so many bad mistakes and had a lot of demons. So I don't know. I thought the storytelling was beautiful. I'm so glad you liked it. And I miss that merry band of pranksters because they were really wonderful actors and people. And that's the best you can get when you're doing a show, like enjoying your time with those people, because it's a lot of time.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you guest starred in two of my favorite comedies, Will and Grace and How I Met Your Mother. So I was wondering, do you have any fun stories or memories from filming?
Well, with Will and Grace, Deborah Messing is a dear friend of mine, and I always wanted to work with her. I will tell you one story. This is just to show you how incredible they are. I don't know if you've ever been to watch a sitcom be filmed in front of a live studio audience, but it's pretty amazing. You'd be so impressed. They come out, they do the first scene, it's all memorized, and they're wonderful, and they finish the first scene, and then they stop. And then writers come, and they descend upon them, and they literally rewrite the scene right there in front of an audience. And it takes about 10 to 12 minutes. The writers give them brand new lines, and then they film it again, and it's almost like another scene. And I was back, I'm not on a half hour. I wasn't on a half hour sitcom at the time. I was on an hour drama, and words never change on an hour drama. You get the words, you memorize them, you shoot them. I'm backstage watching them do a whole nother scene I hadn't seen before that was just written 5 minutes ago. And I'm backstage going, they can't do that with me. I've memorized my lines. I cannot learn another. I was so panicked that, and that's how sitcoms work, Maya. It's crazy. What you see was not what it started as. And Deborah, Eric, and Sean, they are incredible at it. They just rewrite the scenes, and I was fully panicked backstage. But I remember my favorite part was when my dog started barking and I had to scream at it. I don't know if you remember that. It was barking. I'm like, just 1 minute. And the poor the sound guy was like, holy mackerel, that girl can scream. So that was fun. And then with How I Met Your Mother, working with Josh Radnor was great because both Deborah and Josh and I all went to the same school. So we feel like we're part of the same, group. And it's just nice to work with your old friends.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was actually just watching your episode of Will and Grace right before this interview. So
I hope you didn't have to cover your ears when I started screaming. But yeah, it was great. Oh, also another really wonderful thing to say, and this is fun, is that I was basically 9 months pregnant when I did Will and Grace, and that was Milo. And so that was 20 years ago because he just turned 20. So I don't know if you recall, but I was huge. And that was my 10-pound baby in my belly. I think I gave birth like 2 weeks later, and I'm not kidding.
Oh, wow. So of all the roles you've played, is there one that you've related to the most?
Gosh, what a great question. There are different parts of different roles that I relate to, but I think overall I relate really powerfully to Eleanor Frett from The Practice, because she was a freedom seeker and she fought for the underdog, and she didn't care how much you paid her. She just wanted justice to be served. And that's very much like how I grew up and how I believe. And I think she learned a little from me. She became a little bit more maybe warm and a little bit more funny because I played her, and I became a little bit more, I'm like confidential and very serious, and I take issues really seriously, and I try to get to the bottom of it and find the right, try to solve the puzzles. So it was one of those characters where I learned something from playing her, and I think the part evolved because they learned something about me as they were writing it. And that's really the best you can do with a role. And I played her for 8 years. And it was, I miss her. I love her. I still have my Eleanor Frett's law degrees framed in a room that I have.
Cool.
Yeah. So I feel like I went to law school, even though I did it.
Yeah. So you used to work at I know that you used to work as a sign language interpreter.
Yeah.
So what drew you to learning ASL?
So this is a really interesting story, Maya. I had learned I had learned a few things in college. I took a couple of classes. I probably knew 10 signs in the alphabet. I didn't know much. I just took it because I needed language credits and it seemed easy. I didn't expect to use it ever again. So I took a few classes, and about 4 years later, I was walking down the street and I saw a man get hit by a car, and it was very serious. And I called the police, I called the ambulance. I knocked on someone's door. This is prior to cell phones. We're talking a long time ago. And everybody came, and they were surrounding the man who was on the ground, kind of looking up. And they said, they were looking down at him saying, "Sir, can you tell us your name? We'd like to call your family." And he didn't respond. They're like, "Sir," because they thought he might be in shock. So they wanted to joust him out of shock. "Sir, can you just tell us your name? We'd like to call your family." His eyes were open and he was breathing. and kind in pain a little bit, but he doesn't respond. And they said it again, "Sir, we're asking you to give us your name and number so we can call your family." And I was standing, like in the middle of the street because I was the one who called in the paramedics. And I walked over to the policeman and I tapped on his shoulder and I said, "Could he be deaf?" And he said, do you know any sign language? I go, I know enough to ask him if he's deaf. And they go, "Ask him if he's deaf, ask him if he's deaf." And I leaned over and looked down at him and I just signed, "Are you deaf?" And he raised his hand and you could tell it was broken. And he went, "Yes." And we're like, "Oh my God, he's deaf. Oh my God, he's deaf." And they're like, "Get his phone number." I'm like, "I don't know sign language." The numbers are very hard in sign language. And especially when you're upside down with a broken clavicle. So I said, "Sir, can I get your phone number?" And he tried to it was terrible. I must have had to ask him 15 times because numbers are hard in sign language. And I felt awful because he was in pain. I go, "I think this is his number." And then they called, I guess they did a relay and they called and they informed his parents and his wife that he was going to the hospital. And then the cop said, "Will you come with us to the hospital?" I said, "I don't know sign language." And they said, "You know more than we do." And then I thought, I had a brief moment of thinking, well, I'm probably never going to ever get asked this nicely to get in the back of a police car before. So I'm going to go. So I went to the hospital with this man and I hardly knew sign language. I knew 10 signs in the alphabet. And then they brought him into surgery. And then the folks came and the wife, all deaf, all of them. And then I remember distinctly the doctor coming out and saying, "Can you please tell them that he has a small tear in the lower left quadrant of his ventricle in his heart?" And I'm like, no, I cannot tell them that. I don't know sign language. They're all deaf. And it was a crazy 5 hours where I was trying to use Pictionary and charades and to help the family. He was going to be okay. And that's the one thing I was able to say is he's going to be fine, but he's got to get a little operation. And then after that day, I thought, this is crazy. I am never going to be in this position again. I'm going to learn sign language. And I became an interpreter and I helped interpret for many people in hospitals. And now it's a beautiful language that I know.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
And that from an accident that I called in. And then it became a really important part of my life. Because when actors are struggling to become actors and make it as a living, it's really important that you have something that's meaningful, because if you're just waiting tables or you have a boss who doesn't appreciate you, it hurts your heart. So to have something that I love to do and I knew was helpful and it made me feel good while I was being rejected as an actor for every audition, I think it helped me be a more happy person.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. My sister is taking sign language at school, and she's teaching me what she's learning, because I know a little bit, but I don't know a lot. So she's teaching me.
That's great. You will never believe how wonderful it'll be when you meet a deaf person and just have, a few things that you can say. Just, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for asking that. I love telling that story.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were in the Deaf West production of Spring Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just one of my all-time favorite Broadway musicals.
Well, now I know you and I are going to be friends for life because it's one of my all-time favorite musicals. Isn't it amazing?
It is. Yeah, I wanna what I want like more than anything is just to be able to go back in time to see the original on Broadway. So I'm like, if I can just do that, that's the only thing I'd ever need a time machine for.
Well, I'm sure you've seen snippets, right?
Yeah.
And who knows? There might be a revival at some point.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. It was.
It was incredible. And I will say this, it's really funny. You think that if you're in a show with 10 deaf people, it's going to be really quiet backstage. It's not quiet. They are so loud when they start signing and we're like, they're like, guys, there's an audience out there and they can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. So was it difficult to sign a live production?
It wasn't difficult because I have to tell you that you almost don't have to act as much because the beauty of the signs and the songs, using your hands to help explain things it's so gorgeous and so fluid and so emotional because when you use your hands, it's like you're adding a dance movement to what you're saying. And it really helps convey the story, not just for the deaf people, but for the hearing people as well. So I think it was the opposite of hard. It was hard to learn. It was hard to learn exact signing, exactly when you're saying it so that it is perfect and it hits on the nose every time, and to be fluid with it. But once you get that in your body, it's wonderful. It feels like you're dancing in a play.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I love. The thing I love about quarantine is I was able to find all these Broadway soundtracks, and I have spent hours like multiple like for a while just like going down rabbit holes finding videos from Spring Awakening on YouTube. So I'll just spend like an hour doing that.
You should contact, honestly, you should contact the Deaf West Theater and ask them if you could, see the video, because I'm sure they must have one.
Oh,
good idea.
Yeah, I'm writing this down. Thank you.
I don't have it, or else I would share it, but I have a feeling they must have one in their archives. And after all of the wonderful things you've said about it, I can't imagine they wouldn't want to share it. What other musicals do you love?
Thank you. I love First Date and Rent, and Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen. Those are my favorites.
I've never heard of any of those. I know. They've changed history, those, They really changed history, those musicals. They're incredible.
Yeah.
For sure. You've got good taste.
Thank you. So, is there a TV show or movie that you always watch when you just want to be comforted?
Well, during the pandemic, one of the shows that came out that was very comforting for me was Ted Lasso. Did you see it?
I haven't. We don't have Apple TV, but we all want to get it because we all want to see that. So
I actually I didn't expect to like it because sometimes I don't like the goofball, comedies, but I was so tired of the news and so tired of, just all of the hard sadness during this past year that I just wanted something kind of silly, but it was heartfelt and beautiful. I really recommend it. Ted Lasso was great.
Oh, cool.
There's so many shows that I love to watch, but I am a big late night talk show fan. I watch a lot of those.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I always my family and I love those, so we're always just like watching videos from it.
The Queen's Gambit was really good. The Crown. Oh, did you watch Unorthodox? That was incredible. So
I
there's
think
too
my
much.
mom watched it.
There's too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, I right now I have like a bunch of shows I just always go back to just cuz I love them, and right now it's Will and Grace, Gilmore Girls, and The Baker and the Beauty. So
Huh?
that yeah, right now
I
it's
think
all three
that's
of
right.
those.
There's a lot of it's a hard out there, so you want to make it nice and comforting in here. I agree with
Yeah.
you. I've been doing the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
I've been doing the same thing. We need a little bit of lightness.
Yeah. Yeah, I my mom calls it my like little pop culture bubble that I just like escaping to. Like I'm like the outside world is blah right now. I want to be inside my bubble. So
Agreed.
yeah.
I mean, the world is starting to open up a little bit, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to go back out there. No.
Yeah. Me too. I've been so
I just want to stay in my towel on my head and play with my cats. That's all I want to do, and just watch TV and play with my Zoom filters. I am having so much fun with Zoom filters, and pretend I'm a movie star.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought.
We were just gabbing. We were just girls
Yeah.
gabbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I've been trying to like I haven't figured out how to do the effects on Zoom. I've been trying to figure that out.
Oh, I can help you. Look, I can teach you how to do it offline.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So is there a show that you're currently binge watching?
Oh, I just binge watched Lupin. Have you heard of it?
I have, yeah.
The Gentleman Thief.
Yeah.
It's French, but I actually watched it with English English subtitles, and it was incredible. I thought I'm gonna just see if I like it, and I watched all, I think, 6 episodes in one night. So I just binged that. It's hard because I don't have a lot of time to binge watch, but when I do get stuck on something, I just stay up until 4 a.m. until it's over.
Yeah.
What are you binge watching?
We're watching the show Perception on with Eric McCormack. We found it on Amazon Prime. So
Eric McCormack, that old hack.
Yeah.
Isn't he dreamy? You know, I'm doing a show with another dreamy human, John Stamos. So yeah, they're all from my past. They're so dreamy, but I love Eric. He's incredible.
Yeah. We've been watching that like every day. We're on season 2 right now. So
I'm gonna check it out.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try watching Lupin. I haven't watched it yet. I think my mom has.
It's so good, and he's so handsome. But watch it with the English subtitles, so you don't have to do all the work. You have to read everything.
Yeah, because I can't do like the subtitle shows because they speak too fast. I can't keep up with what they're saying. So
neither can I, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
My sight's going a little bit, and I'm not as sharp.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just not a fast reader. So yeah. So what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, I have just one.
However many come to mind.
I have two. One is one of my biggest pet peeves are people not showing up on time.
Yeah.
I find that to be extremely disrespectful. When I went to acting school early on, when I was in college, my teacher would say, if you're late by 5 minutes, you need to multiply that by how many people are in the room, and that's how much time you owe this class. And so no one ever wanted to be late because, there were, 15 people in the room, and you didn't want to have to owe the class. And she could make you do anything. She could make you clean up, stack the chairs, stay after, whatever. So, and then I went to another acting school where they locked the door on the hour, because it's really, you will find that actors are not late if they were trained in the theater. I can't say that for sure for film actors or young actors, but for seasoned professional actors who were trained in the theater, they are not late. But people are late, and that's a pet peeve. And another pet peeve of mine is when people don't know how to apologize. You know what I mean? They're just defensive all the time and can't just ever say, I'm going to do that better. I'm a work in progress. I heard what you said, and I'm going to work on that. But people don't know how to do that. And those are two of my really serious pet peeves. I have hundreds of other ones, but that's okay.
Me too. Yeah. Okay. So, what personality trait has gotten you in the most trouble?
I would say my big mouth would probably have gotten me in the most trouble. I don't respect authority just because they're, adults. Like when I was a kid, just because you're an adult, respect your adults. And I'd be like, but why? They have to earn my respect. I'm not going to just respect them on the get-go. I've gotten myself into some trouble because I have a big mouth and I say what's on my. The one thing I always tell my friends or anyone who works for me is the worst and the best thing about me is you never have to guess what I'm thinking. Some people, they like that. I just full out just say I didn't like that. Can we not do it that way again? And they're like, great, thanks for telling me. And now I know. Instead of silently being like, I don't think she did a very good job. I just be like, I'm going to just say let's try that different next time. But when I love something too, I'm like, I'm the person who writes to the boss to say how great the worker was and how they helped me. So you don't have to guess what I'm thinking. I'll tell you good and bad. And it just lets you release it and not carry it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you have friends who are mad at you for one small thing and they never told you, but it just piles up on something else until there's a big explosion? Well, you did this and this and this. And when we were 6, you did that. And that's not a good way to live.
Yeah.
But it can be scary too when you're just like, I'm going to just tell you. I didn't care for that.
Yeah.
That gets me in trouble. That gets me in a little trouble, I guess.
Yeah, my mom is the same way, and my sister and I like to make fun of her for it, that we tell her she just has no filter. She just, says it like it is, even, and just says things that she probably shouldn't, like when we're out in public sometimes, but and my sister and I will just look at her and we'll be like, you have no filter. You need to put on your filter. But then, we do the same thing. So we're like, no, we're turning into her.
I mean, I'm conscientious. I have a filter, but I don't like to, hold it. I want to, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe that's what gets me in the most trouble. What gets me in the most trouble? Oh God, I feel like I'm always in trouble. You don't want to know why? My name is Camryn, right? And every time I'm on set, they're always calling out to different departments, and I hear this 15 times a day, camera, and I think they're calling for the camera department. But I think that they're yelling at me, like, Camryn did a really bad thing. It's just when you think you hear your name and someone's yelling it, you're like, what did I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, I always feel like I'm in trouble, even though I'm not.
Yeah. So my last question for you is, who do you consider to be a real life superhero and why?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, there's superheroes throughout history, you know. Nelson Mandela is a superhero. You know, there's oh gosh, there's so many people who have influenced me. I would, you know, just say the superheroes are the doctors who work for Doctors Without Borders, that, you know, the people who go into difficult places and conflict and try to help, who try to bring running water. It's, in a really weird way, the superheroes are the people we don't really know about. You know, they're the unsung heroes, are those superheroes to me, because the people who are getting the accolades for everything they do, there's a reward somehow, you know. And for those, for the healthcare workers, for the people who bagged your groceries, for all those people who've been doing this throughout a really epic period of our time, they are my superheroes. I'm very, I look around and see those beautiful people who have been in service during this really scary time, and I think that they are my superheroes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I have like, well, like my superheroes are like my mom and my sister, and then you know, some these incredible women that I look up to, like in the who are just like out there doing
The work. I mean, Stacey Abrams is my superhero.
Yeah.
People are heroes right now, and a lot of, it's really amazing to see the heroic people who have stepped forward in this really challenging time, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with you being in the hospital, you see it all the time. Superheroes are everywhere, and they're not just, they're not fake, they're real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for calling in. I had the best time talking to you. I just felt like I was talking to my best friend, so I did not want to hang up.
I know, me too. You asked great questions. You really made me think and ponder stuff, and that's the best. And I know a lot of young people see this, and you are helping to shape their minds, make them fall in love with the arts. And, you know, you're asking interesting questions. We talked about the law. We talked about sign language. Like, we really ran the gamut here. And I love your last question in particular. And just like, thank you for doing this and having this content going into young people's minds and expanding their worldview. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Camryn, you are just as fabulous as your Zoom filters, and we have loved spending time with you, so thank you so much.
Don't get me started. I have a lot of them, and I do private parties. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you so much, and just know that if you are ever in Colorado, I'm sure we have lots of patients that would love to meet you. You're always invited.
I would love to come. I would. And hopefully soon I will be able to travel and come and see you all.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much, and you have a great day. I'm sure Maya will keep us updated on where to find you next, on the screen, on the stage, on the wherever it might be. So we will look forward to that.
Great. So nice to meet you. Thank you for everything, and you're doing such a beautiful job. Mwah.
Thank you.